here to speak to you about women drummers as agents of social change. And you might say, women drummers? There's women drummers all over the country, women drummers all over the world, which is true now, but when I was growing up, that was not the case. All the drummers in the rock bands were men, all the marching bands were men, and women just weren't seen. Not only that, I'm talking specifically about this drum. So why don't you help me out? Since I'm already here, give me your hands. A little faster. A little faster. Come on. Thank you. That kind of helps a sister calm down a little bit. The reason I'm playing this drum and I'm speaking about this drum is that for several hundred years, this drum is illegal in all 15 of the previous slave states in the United States. And by tacit, it's been illegal all over the country because once it disappeared out of use, nobody knew about it. And in 1730, South Carolina initiated the slave codes in order to stop the Africans in America from communicating with one another. Why is that significant? It's significant because most Africans speak an average of 7 ethnic languages. And then when you add English and French, they're able to communicate with one another. By making the drums and the playing of drums and African dance in America, starting in the East Coast illegal, the Africans weren't able to communicate with one another. So now I'm going to bring you forward to the 1960s, which you should be well familiar with. During that time, Dr. Martin Luther King was in the forefront. They're marching across the river and the bridge in Montgomery, Alabama. And while that was happening, something very quietly was occurring in America. And I like to call it the Sankofa Renaissance. Sankofa is an Ewe word. The Ewe are an ethnic group that live in Ghana that means to return and pick something up. How many of you have heard of Kwanzaa now? Kwanzaa is from the Ewe people. And during this time between 1958 and the mid-60s, what was occurring was that the National Ballet of Guinea was coming to the United States and doing concerts and performances. They were able to perform in some of the major halls in New York and in California. But during the first 4 tours, they didn't see any African people. They didn't see any black people. And so then when they said 1960, when you came back, will you come back? They said, where's the black people? Where's the African people? These are our kin. We want to see our kin. And so in 1968, African Americans along the East Coast, for the first time in their tours, had access to see the Ballet of Guinea. And what they said to the Africans and African Americans is that we're here to return and pick it up. Not only did slavery harm the African American, but it devastated many of the ethnic groups in Africa because you took their genealogy, you took their priests, you took the warriors, you took the warrior queens. And yes, there were warrior queens. And you took our genetics. We cannot survive. Our family lineages are cut off. And so, during that time, this gentleman, up in the picture, Chuck Davis, took up a call from the teachers and dancers that came and went to Guinea and learned the dances and drums of the ethnic groups, of several ethnic groups in Guinea, came back to the United States, started his own dance company, and then he started Dance Africa, which actually has been to Colorado several times, and began teaching African American people all over the country how to do West African dance, West African drumming, and songs and culture. And then they said, you can't play this drum. Women are prohibited from playing these drums, but you can play these drums that you see here, the dunumbas, the bass drums, but you can never touch the djembe. Ever. So I said, so they said, all right, not bad, not bad, but you can play, but do you have to put it between your legs like a man? Play it to the side like a lady. I couldn't hold on to it. I'm like, okay. So we put up a little bit of that for a while. And then they said the most incredible thing. And whatever you do, Fatu, do not be on your cycle. Now what? I'm so done with you. And for a while, I said, I'm not going to any more African dance classes, any more African drum classes. I continued my work at the university, and I then started my own dance group, my own drum and dance group of women. And that's when we started traveling and teaching other women how to play this drum. During that time period, I met two very remarkable people. And I don't believe in coincidence. I believe when spirit, God, goddess, however you define that, puts something in your path, you need to pay attention. The first one, I call her Sakia to protect her identity. She was from Somalia. She had come to the United States to receive reconstructive surgery after having experienced female circumcision as a child. In this process, they removed both the minor and major labia, they removed her clitoris, and they sewed her shut, and then they cauterized her with hot coals so that the wound would heal. She had asked a friend of hers to talk to me. She wanted to meet me because I was playing this drum. At the time, I thought, okay, I'd love to meet her, and we talked. And it had a profound effect on my psyche. I thought I was talking to a 13-year-old child. This woman was 35 years old. And finally, after efforts of many advocates, was able to come to the United States and get medical help and attention. And it made me wonder why she wanted me to talk to me because of this drum. The second one is this handsome young devil that you see here, Dr. C.K. Gagno. And he came to my house one day after a performance with the Harambee Dancers, and he asked me, he said, why are you playing that drum? Women don't play drums. He said, the drum is a womb that allows something from the non-physical to pass and become physical in the physical world. What did you just say? He said the drum is a womb that allows something from the non-physical to pass into the physical realm. And he said, and it is the woman. He said, and we need to give it back. And he set it aside. And he pulled out the drum that we were working with, and he said, I pick on you. And he did. He was brutal with me during rehearsal. He said, because you've got to get it. And he said, we've got to give this back to women. And then he showed me a video of his dance company. It was all women playing the ngoma. Now, if you think this is phallic, you should see the ngoma. These women were maybe 5'6", and the drum was up here, and it reached back to there. And I look at them, and they're drumming and dancing. And I said, why are you doing this? He said 2 things. Our culture is dying. It is dying. And he said, and it's dying and will die unless we give it back to the women. He then proceeded to teach me this simple rhythm. And when we performed it, we rocked house. Bamaya, to guide the women across the river during a flood or when enemies comes. And if you want to participate, you can say, Bamaya, 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 Bamaya. I don't hear nothing. Bamaya, 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 Bamaya. Okay, thank you for that. All right. How many people ever heard of Dr. Sims, the creator of modern gynecology? This doctor developed the modern practice of gynecology by experimenting on African female slaves with no anesthetics to develop the procedures that are used in what we now take for granted. But at this time in the United States, Black women are more likely to die in childbirth, 3 to 4 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women. It is an area of intersectionality in the women's movement that we as Black women seek to reconcile. But I don't think white women know these statistics. And if they were, we hope that they would join us in that fight. And when we speak of the womb, we speak of genealogy and we speak of blood. Yes, men count their children through the genealogy, but women count it through the blood. West Africans believe in what we call genetic memory, and that your ancestors 7 generations in the future will remember what happened today. Therefore, it's important to teach children so that they're able to recall that. With respect to our sons, what can they recall? Our daughters. You don't hear about this. Let's speak of intersectionality. At this time in the United States, 64,000 Black girls and women are missing. They're not talking about the girls at all in the womb. They're not talking about these things. We're not saying that the women's movements and the fight for equal pay and promotions isn't equitable. But this is where we need intersectionality, because that is where we as women come together. What the Africans didn't want to tell us American women, what Seagate was even afraid to speak, is that the drum is a womb. It represents that divine feminine essence, that divine feminine energy, whose right brain is the creative energy and whose left brain is intellect, and allows energy, because you can understand it if you think of energy and not form, and she turned in and created a polarity and pushed life out, not just humans, but on the earth. And most West African people believe this. What CK said is we're giving it back to the women because they understand that. And it's in your blood so that you can pass it forward. If not, we will die. I'd like to play a song in honor of all the women and the children, particularly the American children, who aren't being talked about in the movement. Hey, kabinale ate moriasa, amendigo muri kabinale deko te moriachie. It's saying, we're asking for prayers and blessings for all the Mandinka children. You all have children, and you're someone's children. Let's connect there. Connect there. Hey, kabinale ate moriasa, amandiko mori kabinale denko te moriachie.